In the heart of a tranquil village nestled between rolling hills and verdant forests, there lived a man named Daniel. Known for his craftsmanship as a carpenter, Daniel was admired by all who crossed his path. But beyond his skill with wood lay a deeper beauty, his unwavering devotion to his daughter, Elise. Elise, a spirited girl of 16, had grown up under Daniel's loving care after the untimely passing of her mother. Though life wasn't easy, their bond was unshakable. Every evening, Daniel would return home from work, tired but smiling, ready to share stories with Elise. He taught her about resilience, kindness, and the importance of finding joy even in adversity. But tragedy struck when Daniel remarried Victoria, a woman whose charm initially masked her darker side. At first, Victoria seemed like the perfect stepmother, showering Elise with gifts and kind words. However, beneath this facade simmered jealousy is a quiet resentment that grew stronger with time. When Victoria gave birth to her own daughter, Grace, her true nature emerged. Her affection shifted entirely toward her newborn child, leaving Elise on the periphery. The turning point came one fateful night when Daniel passed away unexpectedly in an accident. The village mourned his loss, but none felt it more deeply than Elise. Without Daniel's protection, Victoria's cruelty escalated. What began as subtle neglect turned into outright abuse. Elise became nothing more than a servant in her own home, tasked with endless chores while Grace reveled in luxury. Victoria ensured that no outsider saw Elise's suffering. She forbade her stepdaughter from attending school or socializing with friends, isolating her completely. Yet despite these hardships, Elise found ways to survive. In her isolated moments, she read books borrowed from neighbors, dreamed of faraway lands, and nurtured a small garden behind the house, a sanctuary where she could escape the harsh realities of her life. One day, as Elise watered her flowers, she noticed a single daisy blooming defiantly among the weeds. It reminded her of herself, fragile yet resilient, determined to thrive against all odds. That image stayed with her, fueling her hope for a better future. Little did she know, change was already on the horizon. Life continued its monotonous rhythm at the household until one day, a stranger named Ethan arrived in the village. Tall, lean, and dressed modestly, Ethan carried himself with quiet confidence. He had come seeking opportunities to improve his life, hoping to start fresh in this peaceful community. Ethan's arrival didn't go unnoticed, especially by Grace, now 18 years old and accustomed to getting whatever she wanted. Drawn to his rugged charm, Grace dismissed him outright when he approached her, assuming he lacked wealth or status. Determined to win her favor, Ethan introduced his friend Lucas, a well-dressed businessman who exuded sophistication and charisma. Lucas began visiting the household regularly, bringing expensive gifts and flattering compliments. Grace, blinded by superficiality, ignored Ethan completely and focused all her attention on Lucas. During one such visit, Ethan couldn't help but notice Elise working quietly in the background. Despite her tattered clothes and weary expression, there was something remarkable about her, a quiet strength that set her apart. Ethan started talking to Elise whenever he visited. Their conversations were brief but meaningful. He learned about her love for reading, her dreams of escaping the toxic environment at home, and her determination to build a better life. Elise, wary of strangers, opened up slowly, revealing glimpses of her inner world. One afternoon, as they sat together in the garden, Ethan asked, "Why do you stay here if it makes you so unhappy?" Elise hesitated before answering, "Because I have nowhere else to go. And because I still hold on to hope that things might change." Her words lingered with Ethan long after their conversation ended. He admired her courage and decided to learn more about her circumstances. Over the following weeks, their friendship deepened. They shared meals, laughed over silly jokes, and talked about their aspirations. For the first time in years, Elise felt seen and valued, not just as a servant, but as a person worthy of respect. Meanwhile, Grace grew increasingly jealous of the attention Ethan paid to Elise. Sensing a potential threat, she demanded that Victoria keep Elise out of sight during Lucas's visits. Victoria complied without hesitation, forcing Elise to work longer hours and remain hidden away. One particularly grueling day, Elise collapsed from exhaustion in the kitchen. Ethan found her unconscious and helped revive her, offering words of encouragement that touched her deeply. This incident marked a turning point in their relationship. From then on, Ethan resolved to help Elise break free from her oppressive life, even if it meant challenging the people standing in her way. Time passed, and Ethan eventually gathered the courage to propose to Grace. Standing before her and Victoria, he declared his intentions, only to be met with scorn. "Do you think we'd accept someone like you?" Victoria sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. "You're poor, unworthy, and beneath us." Before Ethan could respond, Victoria added cruelly, "If you must marry someone in this family, take Elise instead. Perhaps she'll suit your lowly standards." The room fell silent as everyone turned to look at Elise, who stood frozen, humiliation washing over her. Yet, amidst her pain, she held her head high, refusing to let Victoria see her tears. Ethan, however, saw something admirable in her resilience. While others saw weakness, he recognized strength. Ignoring Victoria's mockery, he approached Elise later that evening. "I'm sorry you had to endure that," he said softly. "It's not your fault," Elise replied, her voice steady despite her emotions. Over the next few weeks, Ethan spent more time with Elise, learning about her hopes and fears. Together, they planned a future where she could finally live freely. When the time felt right, Ethan formally asked Victoria for Elise's hand in marriage. To his surprise, and perhaps relief, Victoria agreed immediately, seeing it as a convenient way to rid herself of Elise once and for all. As preparations began for the wedding, Elise prepared herself for uncertainty. Though she trusted Ethan, she couldn't shake the fear of what awaited her beyond the confines of her current life. Still, she clung to hope, believing that change, however daunting, was better than stagnation. The days leading up to the wedding were filled with tension for Elise. While Victoria treated her with even greater disdain, Ethan worked tirelessly behind the scenes to prepare for their new life together. Unknown to everyone, including Elise, Ethan harbored a secret: he wasn't as poor as he appeared. Ethan had built a successful business empire over the years, but chose to live modestly while testing people's true nature. Lucas, his closest friend and business partner, played along with the ruse, posing as a wealthy suitor to expose Grace's materialism. One evening, as Elise sat alone in the garden tending to her flowers, Ethan joined her. "I want you to know," he began gently, "that I'm not here because I pity you. I admire your strength and resilience." Elise looked at him, surprised by his sincerity. "Thank you," she whispered. "But why me? Why choose someone like me when there are others who could offer you so much more?" Ethan smiled softly. "Because you're extraordinary, Elise. You carry yourself with grace despite everything you've endured. That's rare, and precious." Though touched by his words, Elise couldn't help but wonder about the future. Would marriage to Ethan bring freedom or simply another form of confinement? Her doubts lingered, but she resolved to face whatever came next with courage. On the day of the wedding, the village gathered to witness the union of Elise and Ethan. To outsiders, it seemed like an ordinary match, a humble carpenter's daughter marrying a hard-working young man. But beneath the surface, secrets simmered. After the ceremony, Ethan led Elise to a carriage waiting outside. As they traveled through winding roads, the landscape shifted from familiar fields to lush estates. Finally, they arrived at a magnificent mansion surrounded by sprawling gardens. Confusion washed over Elise as she stepped out of the carriage. Where are we?" she asked, her voice trembling. "This is our home," Ethan replied, smiling warmly. Inside, servants greeted them with smiles and well wishes. Elise marveled at the grandeur around her, the polished marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and opulent furnishings. It was a world far removed from the one she knew. Later that evening, as they sat together in the drawing room, Ethan revealed the truth. "Elise," he began, taking her hands in his, "there's something I need to tell you. I wasn't entirely honest about my circumstances before." Her heart raced as she waited for him to continue. "When I first met you, I wanted to test people's true nature. So, I disguised myself as someone less fortunate. Lucas, my friend, helped me expose Grace's materialism. But my feelings for you were genuine from the start." Tears welled up in Elise's eyes, but they were tears of relief rather than sadness. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she asked softly. "Because I wanted you to see me for who I am, not what I own," Ethan explained. "And because I feared losing you if you thought I'd only pursued you for convenience." Elise smiled through her tears. "You have nothing to fear, Ethan. Your kindness and respect mean more to me than any amount of wealth." From that moment on, they vowed to build a life rooted in trust and mutual admiration. News of Elise's newfound wealth spread quickly through the village. Whispers turned into gossip, and soon everyone knew about the hidden riches of her husband. For Victoria and Grace, this revelation was bitter medicine. Their attempts to secure Lucas's affection had failed miserably, leaving them humiliated and resentful. Desperate to regain some semblance of dignity, Victoria doubled down on her efforts to rebuild her failing business. But without Daniel's support or Elise's labor, her ventures crumbled one by one. Bills piled up, creditors knocked on their door, and eventually, they were forced to sell off most of their possessions. Grace, once pampered and entitled, struggled to adjust to her diminished circumstances. She lashed out at her mother, blaming her for their misfortune. "If only you hadn't been so cruel to Elise," she snapped during one particularly heated argument. Victoria recoiled, stung by her daughter's words. For the first time, she questioned whether her actions had truly been justified. Perhaps her jealousy and cruelty had blinded her to the bigger picture. Meanwhile, Elise thrived in her new life. With Ethan's encouragement, she began pursuing her passion for learning. Together, they hired tutors to teach her everything from literature to mathematics. Slowly but surely, Elise transformed into a confident and knowledgeable woman, ready to take on the world. Several months after the wedding, Ethan suggested they visit the village to reconnect with old friends and neighbors. Reluctantly, Elise agreed, though the idea of facing Victoria and Grace made her anxious. Upon arriving, they were greeted warmly by villagers who admired Elise's transformation. Many expressed regret for not noticing her suffering earlier and praised her newfound happiness. When word reached Victoria and Grace, they decided to pay Elise a visit. Standing before her former tormentors, Elise felt a mix of emotions: anger, sorrow, and finally, forgiveness. "Why are you here?" Elise asked calmly, though her voice betrayed a hint of tension. We heard about your success," Victoria stammered, lowering her gaze. "And we hoped, perhaps you might help us." Elise listened as Victoria recounted their struggles, detailing how their lives had fallen apart since her departure. Though tempted to dismiss them outright, Elise chose compassion instead. "I forgive you," she said quietly. "But I cannot let you back into my life. My peace and happiness are too important to risk." Victoria nodded, understanding the weight of Elise's words. As they left, both mother and daughter realized the cost of their actions. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and turn on the post notification bell to know when we drop a new video.